just made the most incredible meal, and it was all from freeze-dried foods. In today's video, we're going to show you how to use some of those freeze-dried foods that you've stored so that you can eat like a king, even when the grid's down. Hey Provident Preppers, I'm Kylene.
And I'm Jonathan. Most of us have stored food for a rainy day. One of the questions is, can we turn it into a delicious, nutritious meal when the grid is down? So this is part of the 30 days of preparedness for September. Morgan from Rogue Preparedness asked us if we would do a little video on using freeze-dried foods.
And I was super excited because I love to freeze dry. Now, you don't need a freeze dryer in order to be able to survive, right? And to create delicious meals. But the focus of this video is all about freeze dried. So what I've done, I just went down to our storage room and I got some things that I thought we would make a meal of. The first one is some refried beans, rice, and pico. And this is just leftover from a Sunday dinner when we had all of our kids come over and we had some leftovers and we just mixed it together and we freeze dried it. This is freeze-dried cheese. These are green beans that it was Christmas and we were having a church Christmas dinner, and of course everybody ate all the other stuff except for the green beans, and they were delicious, and so they were going to throw them away, so we're like and we brought them home and we freeze-dried them all, and so now we've got these delicious green beans that we can use up to 25 years later, so that's super cool. These are freeze-dried avocados. Then the bananas are for some banana bread at the end of our suppers. And freeze-dried eggs. Okay, we have the chickens and we have a lot of leftover eggs a lot of times, and so what we'll do is we'll give them to friends and neighbors, but it's fantastic to have a stash of freeze-dried eggs. So we'll show you how to reconstitute and use all this in a recipe, actually in a grid down situation. So we're going to be using the VESTA and the EMBER and cooking indoors using canned heat. We're going to show you actually how easy this is to do.
The first thing that we're going to do is get the EMBER started because this takes a little while to warm up. So
about 30 minutes.
Yeah, so we'll fire this up real quick.
But it's so worth it because I can bake indoors using nothing but the canned heat. The canned heat come in these little cans that's 6 hours. Now, not all sterno can be used indoors. These are specifically chafing fuel and are designed to be used indoors. Now, this is the VESTA. This is what we're going to be using for all of our cooking and our heating up.
And we're not going to need the heater portion, so we'll just set it to the side so that we just have access to the stove.
And if you look, there are 3 cans in here. We can choose how many cans we want to burn at a time, which is great because you can't, with just one, you can't get a rolling boil. But if you have all 3 of them or even 2 of them, it's really easy to get a nice rolling boil going. All right, we want to make sure that all of this turns out pretty much done at the same time. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to get some shredded cheese. And John doesn't like cheese, so I actually don't need very much of this, but I'm just going to put a little bit in this container. And I'm going to immediately close it back up because I oversized the oxygen absorbers, so this should seal back down the first few times that I do that. With the shredded cheese, we only need to put just a little bit of water. And then I want to shake it up so that all the cheese gets coated. Definitely don't want a lot of standing water in there. And then I'm just going to set that aside and let it do its magic while we are figuring the rest of this out. Now, the avocados. So we don't want very much of this. So we are just going to, these oxygen absorbers were in the top. We're just going to pull out a little bit. And then with this, I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to pour a little bit of water over the top. I don't want too much water in here because I want it that nice thick texture. So we'll just let this work its magic for a little while. I have freeze-dried bananas and I want to use them to make the banana bread, and they take a little while to rehydrate. So what I'm going to do is put some bananas in here. And usually when you're rehydrating bananas, you're looking at about 3 times as much water as bananas, a 3-to-1 ratio. So and I want a total of about 1.5 cups of mashed bananas when it's all done. So John, will you pour what you think is about 1 cup on there? And you want to kind of get it over all the top. When you're pouring stuff in, you're trying to get everything nice and wet. And then what we're going to do is we'll just come back and periodically make sure that those are all doing their thing. The next thing that we want to do is to start our beans and rice. And we've got hot water that we're going to start with. But John, why don't you tell them a little bit about the VESTA?
We're going to use the VESTA, which is a great little cooking device, and we'll just get these started right here. And since we are just using 2, I've got them centered in here, and especially since we're not using the heater portion, we don't need one in the back. So we've got this centered so we can cook right in the middle of our cooking area.
All right, hold on. Need a quick little stir. Oh, that's looking good. It's starting to smell like bananas. You want to put just a little bit more water in that. I'm looking at them and they're still pretty hard, so just a little bit. Okay, thanks. So now to rehydrate this, we are just going to take, I'm going to go about like 1.5 to 1. This is 1.5 cups. How hungry are you?
I'm always very hungry.
How much do you want to eat today? How much do you want me to rehydrate?
Yeah, let's go with that. That'll be good.
Okay, so then I need some for me.
Well, of course.
And that's the thing about doing this is that you only have to cook exactly what you need, right? And then I'm going to put that lid back on and let that oxygen absorber work. And I wanted to start with hot water. So we're just going to let this heat up and for just a couple minutes, and then we'll start with some of the other stuff. Okay, this looks great. We are just going to stick the lid on it and we're going to put it right back here and let it do its thing. The next thing we want to do are the green beans. This pan is much smaller. And so what I would do is just, right now it's burning 2 cans. I would smother one of them because we really don't need that. We're already going to start out with hot water. And so I'm just going to put these green beans, okay. These beans are so good. Like you can even just eat them as a snack. So this, I'm just putting it right over that. And I'm just going to pour enough water that I can boil it because I really want these to boil in here. Those look really good. We'll put the lid on them and then let's get baking. We love to freeze dry our own eggs because we have chickens. So in order to reconstitute these, you could add them directly to your baked good, but I think that it's probably best if we reconstitute it. So 2 tablespoons of freeze-dried eggs and 2 tablespoons water equals 1 egg. So we're going to put 1/2 cup of water. You want to dump that water in there? And 4 tablespoons of freeze-dried egg and stir that up. And that should be perfectly the amount of eggs that we need for this recipe. Bananas take a while to rehydrate, and we actually had to cheat with this one just a little bit and give it a little bit of help. But now it's pretty well rehydrated, and if we have some chunky bananas in it, we're totally cool with that. So for this recipe, there's 1.5 cups of banana, and there's 1/2 cup of oil and 1/2 cup of honey. You could totally use sugar, and the recipe actually calls for butter, but John doesn't usually do dairy, and since I want to share this with him, we're gonna share. We're just gonna blend this. Do you want to? And how do the eggs look? The eggs don't take very long to fix the consistency. Actually, those eggs look a little bit runnier.
A little on the thin side.
They look on the thin side. So you know what I'm going to do to fix that? What do you think I'm going to do to fix that? I'm going to add a little bit more egg. And instead of having 2 eggs in this, it'll have like 2.5 eggs. There we go. In fact, we did a whole video on freeze-dried eggs, and we did this experiment showing the reconstitution, like we did 1 to 1, 1 to 1.5, and 1 to 2. And then we cooked it all to see which one we liked the best. So you might want to go check out that video. But that's one of the nice things about freeze-dried foods is sometimes it can be very forgiving. All right, you want to dump those eggs in there? All right, then we've got eggs. We've got 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. Just whisk that in really quick. We're just doing like easy stuff. Now this, it calls for 2 cups of flour, but I didn't put dairy in it so that John could have it. Well, I'm not going to put gluten in it so that I can have it. So this is a mixture of amaranth flour, oat flour, tapioca flour, and garbanzo bean flour. You could totally use white flour or just whole wheat flour, whatever it is that you can get your hands on. That looks great now. I love chocolate, but John loves nuts. So there.
Oh, I like these little fellers here too. These little bitty chocolate chips are awesome.
So that's super easy, right? All shelf-stable ingredients that we just have in our food storage. And then we're gonna dump it in this pan and put it in the ember. And then we're gonna put our dinner together while our dessert cooks. So if you look at this, this actually is a beautiful texture, and quite frankly, it tastes amazing. And the reason why it tastes amazing is because it's got fresh pico in it, right? It was refried beans, rice, and it was I don't remember if it was cilantro lime rice, but it was a flavored rice, and then the fresh pico. So the taste is seriously amazing just because it's that combination. Instead of it being, I don't know, like all cooked and mushy, it's got this beautiful flavor to it.
And a nice texture.
And then the green beans are yum, right? Look, I don't know if you can see like we can, but the texture when you taste them, these are more like they were when they were first cooked. And then how much avocado do you want, handsome?
Yes. Nice little dollop.
Nice little dollop. And the cheese rehydrated really well. So mine, you want cheese? Yeah, that's what I thought. Ooh, I'm actually gonna have a lot of cheese on mine. Well, one of the great things about this is that we only have to rehydrate exactly what we're going to use. Okay, it took a little while, but the banana bread is done. And I actually took little pieces of it, but it's absolutely delicious. It's gluten-free, so it's thicker and it's heavier. And then we cooked it at a super low temperature, so that played in, but it's really good, huh?
Yeah, it's very good.
It's really good. So how did you feel about dinner? Well,
Dinner was very good.
the green beans, were they as good as they were fresh?
They were like just when they were fresh, when we were eating them fresh. So that was awesome, really,
It was
really
pretty
good.
amazing. And I actually think that I enjoyed the beans and rice better than when it was fresh. I don't know if it's because flavors mixed
Probably blend,
better.
yeah.
They blended, but that was really good. The cheese is a little bit different from fresh cheese, but it's close enough that it made me really happy. And the avocado,
Yeah, it was
it was
very
great.
good.
The foods that we chose to use in this dinner all reconstituted super well and were, quite frankly, delicious. So now you know how to reconstitute some of them, and sometimes you just have to play it like you're kind of like with the eggs. Experiment with it, play with it, and have fun in the process. Don't do this and stick it away for 25 years, because if you do, you're really missing out.
Absolutely. And one of the things I really love about this is, I think we already hit on this, was just the fact that a lot of this food, without us freeze drying it, would probably just have gone to waste. Instead, it gets freeze dried and then we eat it and it's awesome.
And,
So I like that.
and having the VESTA and the EMBER means that we didn't have to go outside to cook anything. We didn't have to deal with the smoke and all that. We could just do it inside in the comfort of our own home. And that was really cool. So now for the question of the day. What is your favorite freeze-dried food when it's reconstituted? Comment below. And thanks for being part of the solution.